Welcome, good morning, good afternoon, APM friends and family, depending on where you're joining from. Thank you for joining us for our Q4 H3 event. This is our legacy all hands event. This year we went with the H3 term, which stands for all hands, heads, and hearts. Really, and that's consistent with the platform that we've gone with this event. We started doing it via a Microsoft Teams live event, which allows us to open it up to the public. So very excited this year that we were able to make this event even more inclusive and be able to include all levels of APM employees, all the way down to the craft, any APM fans, family members, prospective employees, etc. So we welcome you. We thank you for joining us today. I do ask if you have any feedback about this event, either the content or the platform, please give that feedback to us. You can share it via email, or you're welcome to share that with us over our social media channels, Outage Buzz on Facebook and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you, and we would love to continue improving this event to make it even more valuable to you. Today's event is going to be a 60-minute event. We'll spend the first 30 minutes celebrating some of the good things that have gone on this year in APM and giving a brief business update, talking about some of the hottest topics going on within APM right now. The latter 30-minute portion will move into a Q&A. We did take 4 questions in advance of the event today, so we will start with those questions. And I give a shout out and a thank you to those who took the time to put those in the Slido. Then we'll transition into our live Q&A. So when we get ready for that, I will let everybody know that it's time to go ahead and submit your questions, and you'll be able to do that right here in the platform. There's an opportunity in the top right-hand corner of the event for you to click on the little Q&A button, submit your questions. We'll get them, and then we'll work through as many as we can with the 30 minutes that we have. If we don't get to all of the questions that are submitted, we will be following up. Last comment for me before we dive in here, the event is being recorded today, so we're going to be following up with the recording on our YouTube channel. Again, Outage Buzz on YouTube. You can find that coming this Friday, and we'll send out an email as well as posting the link on our Facebook and Twitter feeds. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to you, Jake, and let you kick us off.
Well, thank you, Katie. And I welcome all of you for joining us today. Let me reiterate one thing that Katie said. We want this to be very open and transparent. So I again encourage you to ask questions via the Slido platform. And I would encourage you also to put your name next to it. That gives us the ability to follow up if we don't get to the question, or if there's further things for discussion. That helps us a lot. So I'd ask you to trust us that we take your questions in the spirit of openness and transparency. And if you're thinking it, probably someone else is as well. So have the confidence to please share that with us. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone. This is going to be the last time we have ourselves together in this format this year. And some of this call will be a little bit of a reflection on what we've done in 2020, an unprecedented time in our lives, and the work product we have turned in this year, and I expect we will turn in at the close of 2020, is just exemplary. I could not be more proud of this team and this group for what we've been able to accomplish in unprecedented times. And so on behalf of our leadership team, on behalf of our shareholder and our customers, I want to say thank you very much to everyone for your efforts in turning in what I expect will be a year we're all going to be very, very proud of. I'm going to first hand it off to Bruce. Bruce is going to give us a quick update on volume and on financially where we expect to close out the year, and then he'll give it back to me, and I want to talk a little bit about safety. So Bruce, let me kick it over to you, please.
Yep, thank you, Jake. Yeah, it's like Jake said, I'm just going to do a quick recap of where we have been for the year and where I see us finishing for the year. As Jake said, and as you've all heard and have experienced, it's been a challenging year. for various reasons, not the least being the COVID pandemic. We started the year okay. We beat our op plan in 1Q by very slim margin. Volume was normal to above normal in the US, but significantly below normal in Canada. We were helped by larger than normal backlogs of unbilled costs that rolled over from prior year 2019 due to some incremental work that we performed there at the year end that we didn't get billed out. But that goodness all diminished with the onset of the COVID pandemic, which resulted in continued below average volumes in Canada and then now below normal volumes in the US. 2Q alone was down about 30% in volume, and the future was very unpredictable and uncertain. We finished June year to date down about 15% in hours to op plan and prior year overall, with some segments of the business being down as much as 60%. As a result, we had to take a hard look at the business and remove, delay, defer spend to maintain a healthy bottom line and to keep positive to neutral cash flow. We did things like canceled training, canceled travel, limited non-billable salary and payroll cost. We restructured the business. We took advantage of some governmental programs that subsidized the business, and we released some reserves. Third and fourth quarter volume has slowly returned as we kind of predicted, hoped, and planned for. The current volume delta through October is only about 6% and is steadily improving. We still do have an accuracy disconnect with forecasting that I'm seeing. Many weeks are off as much as 20% to the actual, which is our actual performance is over what's forecasted, which is good, but makes planning available cash flow for investments hard to predict and plan for. So, and as the year comes to a close, we're going to have very limited time to modify that investment strategy. Current fourth quarter pacing. So what we have built into the current fourth quarter forecast as of right now would put us at about 7% down for the year on top line sales revenue, but less than 4% down on bottom line. As Jake said, that's remarkable performance given the challenges. I do expect that delta to continue to shrink as the weeks close out. So again, great work, great performance in this unprecedented time. Jake, back to you.
Thank you, Bruce. One thing that Bruce mentioned and some of the changes we made as a result of COVID, some of the things we have learned through that were actually healthy for the business in the sense that we're learning new ways of doing things, new ways to work, new ways to be competitive in this market. New ways to touch job sites when we can't actually go there at times, new ways to train. And we've had a focus throughout the year as a leadership team on what are we learning from COVID that actually may benefit the business long term. So keeping an optimistic approach to the future, learning from this period in our history, and making ourselves better is something this team is really focused on. And again, I'm very proud that we've been able to do some of that, make our business better, I believe, while also continuing to execute a significant amount of volume that Bruce talked about. With APM, our execution, it always starts with safety. Safety is our keystone. It's the disciplines that lead to all other excellence. And as you've seen in the last couple of Monday morning emails from Alex, we had a rough stretch this fall, a period of roughly 7 days, sandwiched around a weekend that were just frankly unacceptable. We had multiple events, injuries, that led to medical treatment and other events, even near misses that were concerning. And so I want to reiterate for our teams as we look to finish this year strong and finish it with excellence. I want to encourage you to go back and read the last 2 emails that Alex has sent out. He's had a top 10 of things to consider. I want you to read that, and I want you to consider what are some things that you will apply to finish the year strong with excellence and make sure that everyone's going home 100% safe. There were 3 things that I wanted to specifically emphasize that were relevant to me and relevant to some observations I've made in the business from reviewing the events as well as going to at least one job site. PPE. We have standards for PPE for a reason. And I want us to develop a mentality where we're following standards. We know what the standard is and we follow it without exception. So know what PPE is best for your job, and follow the standard. STA and stop. STA is a core tool in our business. Plan your work your plan, and it's the tool we use for that. We need to be doing that without exception. But we also need to recognize when we need to stop. When something in our environment changes, when there's a doubt, when there's a question that's raised, okay, let's stop. Let's evaluate. We may need to redo our STA card. In fact, I would say anytime we stop, we should be pulling out our STA card and looking at it. And if anything's changed, we may need to do a new STA card in order to make sure our plan is still workable and still will be able to execute with success. And then the last one for me is hazard hunts. And really for me, hazard hunts is assessing the work environment. What I've seen recently is we overlook hazards in the environment because we're just used to them being in a construction industry. We don't always see that hazard. And I think hazard hunts are a good opportunity to maybe bring some fresh eyes into your work area, assess your work environment, and see what you may be overlooking that somebody with fresh eyes may see. As we think about safety to close out the year, I want to tighten up our ship, make sure that the number one thing we deliver is everybody going home safe so they can enjoy the holidays. And again, I want to encourage you to go back, read the last 2 emails Alex has shared, look at that top 10, see what tools you can apply to your work environment that will help us collectively deliver the outcome that's most important, and that's everyone going home safe as we enter the holiday season. So with that, let me turn it over to Dan. Dan's going to spend a few brief minutes talking to us about the recent refinement of our structure. So Dan, if you would, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. That's actually a good segue, because what I really want to lead off with is a thank you to everyone. Doing the operational refinement restructure, it was a tough thing to figure out relative to timing. There really is never a good time to do these things, but the professionalism that we still maintained and operated within the field, not only with what we were doing organizationally, but when you couple that with COVID, demanding owners, demanding customers, I really applaud everybody that took part in this year, and in particular this outage season. The amount of focus that you folks were able to maintain, honestly, really makes me feel good about the operational direction we're going, because, just to kind of recap, everything we did relative to flattening the organization was to drive the management of our business as far down as we could, as close to the job site experience as we could get it. we often in management talk about what's the most important entity in the company, and it surely is not Dan Reinhardt, and it probably is not Jake Locklear or anybody on this phone from a presenter standpoint. It's our job sites. It's the experience we're giving our employees. It's the experience we're giving our customer, and ultimately it's the experience that we're giving the owner. So the more that we can empower our site teams, the more we can drive the decision making to standards, to process, to procedure, like Jake spoke to, I think the stronger our company gets. At the end of the day, 2019, a little bit of 2020, the things that hit Jake's desk, that hit my desk, they tend to be things after the fact. They tend to be things that were in kind of a damage control mode. So I want everybody to maintain focus, but understand the reason we did this was to really drive and empower our site teams. We have divisions. The divisions are there to drive empowerment. They're there to drive ownership. They're there to drive accountability. I still want and love the entrepreneurial spirit, but it now gives us the ability to structure that. Instead of looking at 17 different initiatives and 17 different directions, we now have businesses and divisions that will focus where their business is today, where their business is going to be tomorrow. John and Nick, their primary job is to focus on where those businesses are going to be 3 years from now. My job is to help everybody kind of get, maintain what we have today, figure out what we're going to be tomorrow, and drive it all in that general direction. So, again, just to bring it home today, really appreciate the efforts. It makes me feel good that it seems like no matter what kind of curveballs we throw our field teams, you guys stay in the back of the box, you wait it, you read the ball, and then you drive it into the outfield. So congratulations to the field teams and all the support teams. We've also kind of turned your worlds upside down a little bit too. So good work. To Jake's point, it's fourth quarter. We got to bring it home. We got to maintain. We got to play the whole 60-minute game here. So with that, Jake, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dan. One thing we did learn through the challenges this spring and summer relative to COVID, there was lots of focus on how the overall business was going to need to change and adapt to the reality of COVID, which then meant after the initial sprint of what's our COVID policy and guidance we give to our field teams, we really had to trust our field teams to execute with minimal oversight from us. And one of the things that I've reflected on and learned and shared with Dan and our operations team is, again, just how impressed I am at how professional our organization is and how our professional construction superintendents were able to deliver in a very challenging time when the entire business was learning. And in some ways, if we just get out of the way of our superintendents and let them do their job with their field teams, we're better. And so to Dan's point, flatten the organization, move empowerment into the divisions that we've established, focus on the superintendent being the star of the show with his or her field teams. That is where we're going to find our success, and that is the foundation for some of the changes that we have made here recently. One final thought from me about closing the year out with excellence before we turn it over to Q&A. One of the observations I've made through various job site visit, listening to superintendents, listening to others via phone calls, looking at events, just number of things to look at, is we're tired. Fatigue. Fatigue is real. We're tired of wearing these masks around our necks, and when we're coming in close contact with each other, we're tired of being 6 feet apart. Look, I don't like doing all hands, hearts, and heads calls via Teams. We do it because it's important, but I get much better energy from being in a room with some people sitting watching, seeing their eyes, seeing their reactions. We are a people business, and we are humans, and humans need connection. I get that. So what I'm about to ask you to do as part of finishing out the year well, it goes in line with what Dan said about being professionals. COVID is still real. I'm sure you all have been looking at the data and the numbers. We are hitting a spike in this country, and that spike's likely going to continue through the holidays as people travel for the holiday season. And that's needed. We need to take the holidays to connect with our loved ones, to recharge. And for some of us, that means you're traveling. I'm going to Dallas next week with my family to see my mother's side of the family in Dallas. Others will be traveling for Thanksgiving. We'll be traveling for the Christmas holidays. I'm not here to tell you don't do that. What I'm here to ask you to do and encourage you to do is to be wise. If you're going to do that, be wise about how you do it. Follow the basic standards and protocols of sanitation. Be smart about close contact. Be smart about wearing PPE like masks. Be smart about where you go. Mitigate the risks to yourself and to your loved ones. And my other ask is to be very transparent about that with your teammates, with your leaders. If you're going to travel somewhere to connect and recharge, you're not going to get a single pushback from me. But it may mean that when you come back, you're going to have to quarantine for 14 days because you've gone somewhere with a heightened risk. And I want you to walk into that with open eyes, and I want you to think about your teammates when you come back. And let's not expose others to potential risks that we are more comfortable with taking. My ultimate goal for us to finish out this year is to finish with excellence and to give our teams the opportunity to connect and recharge with their loved ones, and to really be confident and excited about entering 2021 from an APM perspective. And the holiday season is a necessary part of that, and it's needed for all of us. My ask of you is to be mindful of what you're doing, take the necessary precautions so that you don't get sick and your loved ones don't get sick to the extent you can. And then think about your teammates when you return, and be smart about how you interact with others upon return from that vacation, from that holiday travel. Be very transparent about what you're doing so others can know the risks as well. And together we will close out the year strong, and we'll enter 2021 with confidence. So with that, I'd like to open it up to Q&A a little early. Hopefully we've got some good Q&A here, and we'd much rather hear your questions and see us answer than continue to deliver bullet point speeches. So Katie, let me turn it back over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jake. And thank you, Bruce, for that business update. All right, so we are going to transition into Q&A. Like I said, I took 4 in advance and we're going to honor those. But at this time, if you're joined over the live event and you have a question, please feel free to start entering those questions via the Teams platform now. And once we move through the 4 questions we got through the Slido, we're going to get right into the ones that you're submitting. So go ahead and begin submitting those if you have questions. All right, first question I have here It says, for the employees who have been keymen and foremen, is there anything we need extra in the new SME and certified mechanic spots to be able to move to superintendent someday? And Dan, I'm going to pass this one to you first, sir.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Yeah, good question. Where to start? One of the reasons we moved away from keymen is because we really lost track in a lot of our minds of what was the criteria that made a keyman. A lot of us that have been around a while, we know where it started. We know what it was started for. We know what the intent was, but somewhere along the line, we kind of lost the ability to go back on paper and really prove to an owner or a customer of what's different about this person other than how much we charge you. I think, the certified mechanic and subject matter expert, we put a lot of thought into it, and we continue to put thought into it to really build some very simple, very doable criteria around it. I believe there's two avenues right now. I believe the entire career chart is in the one-stop shop, or feel free to get a hold of an operations leader and have that discussion with them about what the criteria is. Our goal is always to, from apprentice on up, to give people a look at a very good career with APM, if you will, and really how far you can progress. So really, to answer the question, there probably is some differences. There needs to be, and I think you can find those either in the one-stop shop or certainly talk to one of the ops leaders and have that conversation.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. All right, our next question here. I'm also going to pass this one back to you, Dan. It reads, since the legacy LOBs or lines of business no longer exist, I assume we need to stop referencing them in our communications and company systems. Is this correct?
Yes. I think if one and I'll add this on very quickly. One of the things we're striving hard to do in operations is the concept of standardization. And if we're going to become standardized with pay rates, with billing rates, with process, with procedure, you have to start right from the get-go, and it's what we call ourselves and how we interact with each other. So, the simple answer is yes, but it all is part of driving to get a far more standardized operations, and operations that has a large amount of accountability in it. So, yeah, we want to make the switch as quickly as we can.
Very good. Our next one here is from Ben Jonas. So thank you, Ben, for entering this in the Slido. We appreciate that. And it reads, what is the difference between the old role and the new role? What does corporate see as the big change in responsibility and scope, and where can we find this detail? Dan, I'll pass that one back to you.
Wonderful. I mean, the easy answer is we put a lot of effort into job descriptions, and the new job descriptions are fairly detailed as to a little bit what the job expectations are. We have a hard time holding to that because we often put more on top of people. There's always that last sentence in the top paragraph that says, and whatever else your manager sees fit to kind of throw your way. But we do have fairly detailed job descriptions. For me, and I'd open it up to any of the other chiefs, the primary difference to me is our division managers. I want them to get into the mindset of ownership. You own that business. You need to approach it like it's your money, like at the end of your name is comma LLC. Ops leaders, you're our coaches. And to me, those are the biggest differences. Ownership at one level, coach, mentor, pipeline, create that pipeline, get people through the pipeline, build our field teams, build them stronger, build them better, come up with what the next generation field team looks like, whether it's core teams, traveling teams. So you have an ownership perspective at one level, and then an absolute coach, mentor, protect the pipeline at the next level.
Thank you, Dan. Our next question reads, how are we going to handle the QA, or I'm interpreting that to mean quality assurance, function in Quebec? And Dan, I'll let you decide if you or Nick or John want to take this one.
Yeah, I can take it easily. John, are you in a good spot to talk? Otherwise, I'll take care of it.
It's up to you, Dan. I can
go.
All right. So the QA role in Canada is we have a QA leader for all of Canada in Jelko Ganjadik. He's been with the company even since the integration with Alstom. He'll continue to do that, manage that for all of Canada. Specific to Quebec, my guess is this question is more related to our provincial certification. With our boiler program, we have special certifications for welding on pressure vessels, and the RBQ is that provincial governing body for Quebec, and we're working through a process right now to make sure that we have the right folks signed to that agreement, and Jelko in the end will be the steward for the whole program of all of Canada for all provinces, like he is for, say, the province of Alberta, like he's the signed signator today for. So I don't see any major transitional issues here, as we we have the right folks in play and a very strong operations team in Quebec to continue to maintain a strong program there.
Very good. Thank you, John. All right, and the last question that we had pre-submitted, and it comes from Seth Wilcox, so thank you, Seth, for submitting this on the Slido in advance. It reads, can we get some small chain buckets for the come-alongs? When they're not hanging off the main fall, they create a snagging hazard, and it would help a lot. So Dan, I'll let you provide any insight, and if there's anyone else that'd be appropriate to call on, you can certainly do that.
Yeah, good comment, good consideration. I know Nick Brockman's on the phone. Nick and I are engaged in some ongoing conversations with Chris Cruikshanks, who kind of is the North American tool czar for Field Corps. And Nick, I think this is probably something we ought to be able to bring up to Chris relative to getting that loaded into steam sets or gas sets. If it's our specialty work, I would assume we could get with Renee and figure out the right application for the tools that APM supplies.
Yeah, Dan, I agree. And look, any kind of ideas or solutions anybody has, continue to bring that up to your ops leaders. We'll run it up the chain. To Dan's point, if it's Field Corps tooling, we'll take that communication back to Field Corps, try to drive some change. If it's APM specialty tooling, we're in control of that, so we can get with Renee Gamez, who runs our APM tool center, and we get that stuff taken care of.
Very good. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Dan. All right, so we're going to transition into the live Q&A now via the Teams platform. We do have several questions getting submitted here. We'll move through as many as we can. So the first one, Jake, I'm going to pass to you, and it asks, are we considering holiday cheer this year?
Yes.
Easy enough. All right. The next question we have Does volume in how does volume in 2021 look compared to 2020? So Jake, either yourself or maybe Bruce or Dan on this one.
Bruce, do you want to lay out what S2 looked like? S2 is our we go through a process in the summer to look at volume for the upcoming year and our budget for the upcoming year. And we normally will submit our first draft August, September timeframe, then it gets bounced up to the shareholder and then comes back down with what the final is. So Bruce, what does our S2 look like for 2021?
Sure, Jake. Give me 1 second. I think this file is coming up, but yeah, and just high level. I mean, we are expecting some level of improvement and growth over what we are estimating for 2020. We are again being challenged on cost. We do have a pretty aggressive budget decrease in regards to structural and variable costs, which we are addressing or already have gotten started addressing this year in terms of some things we're doing, some restructuring that we recently have rolled out. So that we don't expect, definitely don't expect any contraction on volume. I think our volume's up 5 to 6% year over year over what we're expecting this year. Hours we're expecting to be up about 7%. So some of the hours growth are coming in some of the lower sale price regions, which is why our hours are growing a little bit more than what our top line revenue is growing. 7% on hours, about 5.5% on sales.
Katie, I also want to give Dan an opportunity from a operations perspective, thinking about next year in 2021. I know we've had discussions about what we anticipate will be a heavy spring outage season from a volume perspective. Dan, any words of wisdom you would share with the team about volume for 2021?
As Bruce said, forecasting is always a challenge in the service business. I know in talking to a lot of the division guys and certainly talking to Nick and John, I think there's enough that we're seeing, there's enough that we're being told that we're actually in the process of figuring out how to put another wave of superintendent training on. We didn't do one last year. What everybody did a very good job of this year was really going back and vetting that position and vetting out the resources that we currently have there. And I think there's a few that have been at the superintendent level that really had not been afforded the formal training. They're kind of doubling back to get that. But I think we're looking at a workload that's going to facilitate somewhere in the neighborhood between 20 and 26 new superintendents coming into the ranks for the various division components. So I think what everybody is seeing, Ben Jonas looks like he's got a really big rebound year next year. Needs some help. Nuclear's got some initiatives going on that they're going to need some help. The gas business, there was a lot of begging and borrowing going on in the spring outage season. A lot of Yankees had to head down south to support the workload down there. So we're going to try to kind of, get that back right size. So all the indications are it's going to be a robust year. GE, our counterparts from GE, and to a degree, even Field Corps are all kind of supporting that. So we're hopeful having kind of a banner year next year. My challenge to the operation folks on the phone is we can only do this work if we have the right manpower out in the field. And if I have concerns, I have concerns there for 2021. You know, when I looked at peak this fall, we were somewhere between 1,800, 1,900 employees in the field. And a lot of people were reporting back that we were really kind of tapped out. Those kind of numbers aren't going to cut it in 21. So we've got to really reach out to our partners in the building trades. We've got to come up with contingency plans. If we do run short, what are we going to do? We can't just sit there and go, you know, we're tapped out. We can't take any more business without really looking hard and planning ahead for what we're going to do in 21 to make sure we've got not only craft, but the right craft, vetted out craft that's in our resource program, craft that we can count on.
And I just say, in addition to that, you know, a lot of the volume that was pushed out due to COVID, we did recover or are currently recovering in the second half of this year, but there are some significant outages that will be pushed over to next year, in addition to the normal base level amount of, you know, normal work that we would be performing. So to Dan's point, we everything we're hearing about next year is it's going to be pretty heavy.
All right, some very good insight. Thank you all for that. Our next question comes from Travis. So thank you, Travis, for submitting. And it reads, with a potential global shift, or with the global shift to renewables and a potential democratic government forthcoming, do we feel that we are positioned as a company to maximize our potential in renewables maintenance? So, Dan or Jake, feel free to pop in.
Go ahead, Jake. You look like you're eager.
Well, these are the questions I do. I thank you, Travis, for raising a great question. You know, really looking at the vision for the future. Are we positioned where I would like us to be with renewables? No. We have struggled to gain traction in that space. I'll say a couple of things that give me some optimism. One, as you've seen from our new operation structure, we have a renewables box. And we are having a dedicated focus there. And there are things we do today that support some renewable energy one way or the other. We need to bring that together holistically into one box, and I think that's why you see that box on the organizational chart. I would say second is one of the new leaders within the GE organization, Mark Albenzi, has experience with union craft labor and renewables. And he is overseeing the transactional portion of gas power, and that does relate to renewables. A gas power strategy is to be that backstop for renewables when renewables can't provide power, when the wind's not blowing and when the sun's not shining. And so he has that experience. He has experience using union craft labor with it. I had a conversation with him last week. I expect that conversation will continue. It's going to continue tomorrow, and it's going to continue next week. Are we positioned where I'd like us to be today? No. Do I have optimism that we're having the right conversations and we're putting the right focus on it with that box in our new organizational structure? Yes, I have optimism. But the last thing I'll say as well, and I know the world doesn't necessarily think of it as renewable, but in some ways I do. The cleanest technology that produces power is nuclear. And we are heavy in the nuclear space. And I expect we will continue to be heavy in the nuclear space for a good while. We are making significant traction there. So We do have a portfolio that we're looking to continue to diversify. We're not going to put all our eggs in one of those baskets. And I think you've seen from the organizational structure, it is a focus of ours. Dan, what else would you add to that, sir?
Frankly, nothing. I'm just grateful I let you go first. I think you summated it well. And look, it is in lieu of the potential shift in the with the Democrats in the White House. I think it's going to be a bigger play. We have some commitments from some of our union partners. We're also trying to be very strategic in where we're looking at this first, and and primarily up in that northeast quadrant of the country. We think there's a lot less kind of non-union competition up there, so we think we'll get a good look. We think we've got the right resources up there to take that look, and I think if we can kind of make the crack through there, then I think we'll start to branch it out. But no, great thought, great question. We're there. Are we late to the game? I don't know. This game's going to be played for a long time. So I think it's just a question of understanding what we bring, what we can do, and really support that marketplace. So good question. And now, Jake, I think you answered it very well.
Very good. Thank y'all. All right, coming right back at you both with another visionary question from our feed. With GE moving away from new steam services, where do we see the maintenance side of steam services going within APM?
I'll jump first again. So let me start this. GE ending new steam services. Let's be frank. GE hasn't built a new coal-fired power plant in North America in over a decade. This new steam services focus is really a European focus, and it's the new build in Europe that is a challenge for GE. For us, it's been maintenance for a while now. We are looking at some things to try and take more ownership of our future when it comes to maintenance and servicing steam facilities, particularly coal-fired generating facilities. The other thing I want to say here is, go link these two questions up, the renewables question with the steam services question. And really, this is an economic discussion. Yes, does renewables have a sexy flavor to it from the standpoint of clean energy? Yes. But the price of gas is what's driving the transition from traditional fossil generated coal-fired units to other energy sources. It's the price of gas. And that's not political, that's economic. So I said we have a heavy presence in nuclear. I expect that to continue for a while. We are doing good things on the industrial steam plate, having good partnership with our steam customers. I expect that to continue. With boiler and coal-fired generated facilities, I think we have a future foreseeable for the next 2 to 3 years on what our volume will be, and where our place is in a future steam world, where even if you look into 2050, only the most radical will tell you don't have power generated by coal. Most of them, you're going to see the percentage of generation to go down, but you're still going to need maintenance on steam-powered, coal-fired generated facilities, because renewables and gas won't have enough of the volume to be able to provide all the power. And so if we continue to execute with excellence and continue to make improvements, I think what we'll find is a sweet spot where we can continue to service the steam fleet. And we have a good partner in steam that likes using us because we do good work.
Dan, is there anything that you would want to add to that, or do you feel like that was a comprehensive answer?
Yeah, it was fairly thorough, but Nick, if you could, there's two components that need to be talked about. There's the industrial side and also kind of repurposing existing fossil plants. So I don't know, Nick, if you want to, 60 seconds or so on that might be of interest to the folks.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, Jake, he did a great job, explaining, it's about economics, right? Some of it is political when you get the current legislation, pushing so hard for renewables. Something's gotta give. But to Dan's point, we're looking at different models and how we can be of value and really support the end customer within the industrial sector. Up in Canada, we're working on steam units in cat food plants. I mean, the markets are very broad, very, very vast. And the other thing, I'll highlight, Thursday I have a call, Brad Hageman, he's the industrial steam leader globally for that product line. I'm presenting out to 3,000 people on his call at 3 a.m. and 9 a.m. on Thursday. And getting back to Jake talking about the markets, we have a big push in North America for clean energy and green energy. But, when you really look at the market globally, it's still 80% or better of the world is still using coal. So, I'm hoping with this call that Brad is giving us a platform to talk to his team globally on Thursday. I'm hoping that opens up some international opportunities for us as well. Again, North America is our charter. But as a company with our technician business, and we do nuclear outages in Romania. Internationally, we've worked in 68 different countries. We know how to travel internationally. We're good at the visa process, and honestly, we're good at delivering for the customers. So coal may be potentially going dormant, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, here in North America. But globally, it's still a huge play. So the market's there. Let's go try to see how we can be of value to our shareholder and a value to the end customer. The other piece of this too, even in North America, is the coal to gas conversions. We're still looking at some of those out in the market. So we're definitely not giving up on the steam side, and honestly, between industrial and some of the international stuff, I'm looking for growth.
Very good. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Dan. All right. Our next question in here comes from Gerald Seifert. So thank you, Jared, for submitting. What can be shared regarding our contract, APM's contract with the millwrights, which requires using 50% employees out of the hall? So Dan, I think maybe either you or Colin would be appropriate.
I can start it, and Colin can kind of cut me off whenever he sees fit. There are a lot of agreements that we can utilize. Look, the UBC has been a long-standing partner with APM. A year or so ago, the UBC lost a strong leader in Doug Baines, who really headed up the millwrights. Quite frankly, are we kind of trying to reestablish, reacquaint one another now that Doug's gone? The answer is yes. Relative to agreements that we work, that is something that I've had conversations with already some of my new team of what is the best thing for APM to do relative to delivering for our customer. We have jurisdictional agreements we can work. We have other partners outside of the millwrights in the UBC that are really very eager to show their value, show their worth to us. So, recently we had a very good tech agreement that we used that we kind of got a little bit not sideways with, but kind of came into question with some of the new people that are in charge at the millwright portion of the UBC. We're going to address that before the end of the year. We're certainly going to put that back on the table. It's a very important tool with what we're trying to do with our business and with our customer. And I think it's just a question of educating the new people that have taken some of the roles at the UBC. But, you know, the one thing I want people to understand, we're not bound to a vertical agreement. We have the ability and the flexibility to work several different building and construction trade agreements on our projects. And Colin, if there's anything you want to throw on top of that, please feel free.
No, Dan, there's really nothing else that I would add other than, you know, just stay tuned. We're paying attention to it.
Very good. Katie, I think you're muted.
Katie, you're on mute.
Thank you both. I appreciate that. All right. So we're about 5 minutes or a little under 5 minutes to close here. I'm going to take one last question from the Q&A. We do have a few left in here, so we are going to be following up on the questions that we didn't get to during the event. But Jake, to close us out, I'm going to pass one last question over to you. And it reads, what do you see as our biggest concerns as a company moving into 2021? Where are we struggling and excelling? And how can we in the field help?
So, biggest concerns entering 2021 and what's our future look like? We're actually, as a leadership team, going through the process of identifying what's called breakthroughs using lean principles. What are some of the things that we really want to focus on, not just in 2021, but the next 3 or so years, and then what would we do in 2021 to further that? And I'd say there's 4 big themes that have emerged from that discussion so far. One is accountability, and it really goes to what Dan talked about. It's working to a standard, being standardized in what we do, working to a standard, and less rule by exception or lead by exception. We have done a great job. Number 2, we have done a great job of improving our performance in safety and quality. And I think we have earned the right to now start looking ahead into how do we go from good to great to best in class? How can we be seen as a world leader, best in class when it comes to safety performance? We're looking at, of course, we've got the operational refinement and the structural changes that we've made. How do we execute that in 2021? How does the rest of the organization set itself up so that we are confident entering into 2021 that we can be successful in this flattened organization with the vision that Dan shared of division managers being owners and entrepreneurs, division leaders being coaches. And so I'd say those are some things we will be coming out. We will share early in the first quarter next year what those areas are, how we expect to execute in 2021 with a vision for 2023, 24, and beyond. So be looking for that. I would say in closing as well, and I'd go back to a couple of things that we've talked about to wrap this up. Finishing with excellence starts and ends with safety and everyone going home safe. Again, I would encourage you to know what your game plan is over the next 5 to 6 weeks to send your teams home safe, to make sure you and your family are safe in the holiday season. What do we need to do to set up for 2021 with confidence to be successful in a very dynamic world? With all the churn and changes going around, I want us to be confident that APM is prepped for that and can win in whatever environment we're in. And I have confidence we'll get there. And then I want you to enjoy the holidays. I want you to be able to take time to connect and recharge, and I want you to do that smart. I want you to do that with wisdom. But I want to end with recognizing real quickly a few teams. If you've seen some of the communications over the last month and a half, you have seen a consistent theme. Our team's delivering 100% safety and quality to our customers. Our teams at Imperial Oil, Strathcona, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Rathdrum Power, Oconee and Catawba, big leaders delivering for customers and teams that are delivering 100% safety and quality. That's where I think we're going and where I think we can consistently head. And if we can consistently deliver that excellence, growth will take care of itself. And then I'll close with this one. Colin and I went to Entergy Nelson a week and a half ago. That is a facility that is desperately needed to keep power going in an area in Louisiana that's been hit hard by hurricanes. It was eye-opening to see trees snapped in half. And we live in Houston. We've seen hurricanes before, but it was eye-opening on those drives to see the trees snapped in half and to see homes and the insides of homes laying on the sides of streets and canals because of the devastation. And our team was there helping Entergy keep that power plant running for those communities. It's just a great reminder of how important the work is that we do and the essential nature of the work. We do keep lights on, and it's the most critical in those communities that are needing it the most. So I want to applaud the teams. Those are some great examples of delivering excellence and delivering for communities that desperately need us to keep the power going. So you're doing great work. I'm very proud of what we're doing. I look forward to wrapping a bow on 2020 and being very proud of delivering our work product to our shareholder at the end of the year. And I look forward to 2021. So with that, thank you all for the questions. Katie, is there any closing things we need to do?
You covered it, Jake. The recording will be available this Friday. We will follow up with the answers to questions we missed, and we thank you. Have a good holidays and remain safe. Take care.